Video games are getting undoubtedly better and better as time goes on, but the older I get, the more I find myself chasing this feeling of wonderment I felt as a kid playing video games on my Game Boy. I think my first ever system was the Game Boy Advance, and I had Final Fantasy IV and Sacred Stones, two of my favorite games of all time, I think. And I used to sneak the Game Boy from the car, which is where it was supposed to stay all the time, into my room, and I would just play it for hours and hours. I didn't even beat the games until years later. I don't think I had the skills. I was kind of terrible at video games as a child, and I think that's kind of a hold off now in my life. But the biggest thing is I always wanted to go back. I never got frustrated. I would struggle on these bosses for hours and hours and hours. I would put the game down. I would go make myself a PB&J and come back and play some more. And it didn't matter that I was essentially smashing my face into the boss, attempting victory with the same old strategy, hoping to get lucky. And eventually I would get lucky, and I would win, and I'd move on to the next one, and it would be even harder. And I enjoyed that. But now, video games are different. I can't do that anymore. There's such a competitive air about everything nowadays that it's just not fun anymore. It's honestly quite draining. When Overwatch came out, I expected it to be my new thing. A couple years ago, I got really into League of Legends, and I would play it with my friends that I'd met through the video game, and it was great. You know, we would play normal matches, we'd have a good time, but as the competitive scene got bigger and bigger, my friends no longer wanted to have fun. They just wanted to win every single match. They would watch these competitive games, and they'd say, "Oh, this is a great strategy. Let's do that in solo queue." And I just didn't want to do that. I don't want to be a competitive gamer, but that kind of mentality, that mindset was already inlaid in me, by playing with these people. So I got this competitive mindset, and I stopped playing with them like years later, but I continued to play League of Legends. I would play ranked, and I would get mad and mad and mad at my teammates, at everybody, and I realized that I needed to stop. It was an unhealthy mentality, so I stopped playing League altogether. I couldn't have fun in normal games, and I couldn't have fun in ranked games because I was so competitive just like naturally by playing the game that I couldn't see my own faults, only the faults of my teammates. Now, in turning the lens inward, I figured it's obviously a problem with me, being overly competitive for essentially no reason. It's a video game, it's meant to have fun. I'm not a professional playing at the top level of gameplay. Just like a pickup game doesn't matter in football. I'm not in the NFL. I can just play with my friends and have a good time. But that mentality isn't held in video games anymore. When Overwatch came out, you kind of saw it at the beginning. There was no ranked mode, but people were still extremely serious about the game. Don't play this hero, don't play that hero. You're not professional, you're not a seagull. But the professional scene is budding, it's still growing. And there wasn't even really too much marketing towards the competitive scene at the beginning. And now that we're seeing it growing and growing with the release of actual ranked play, I honestly don't want to play the game anymore. I think that there's a flaw in the matchmaking. I think that the fact that you lose rank from one loss and gain rank from one win, along with the fact that it's essentially random who gets the last, with the coin flip, it's essentially random who wins, because undoubtedly it is much easier to burn out the time on defense than it is to win on offense. I think that's kind of a fact at this point, and I believe they are looking into changing it, but it's driven me away from competitive and back into normal queue, quick play. And going into quick play, it's the same deal. Maybe there's not the same coin flip, I'm gonna say it, maybe there's not the same coin flip bullshit, but there is the competitive mentality from people like me who raged out at competitive and went back to quick play. They bring their fury back to the casual players and make the game less fun for everybody, myself included. So I find myself steering away from the Overwatch gameplays and back towards more fun things. I've been playing Witcher 3, having a blast with it. There's nobody competing with me. It's a single player game. I just want to make a cool character, and I'm having a blast with it. So if you see more Witcher 3 content, don't fret. Overwatch might come back, but it's unlikely. And like always, I'm just looking for people to have fun with and play video games with. So if you've made it this far in the game, maybe this far in the video, maybe leave a comment saying, hey, I want to play a game with you. You know, add me on Steam, follow me on Twitter, something like that. I don't know. But I figure if you've made it this far, you're probably somewhat interested in my monotone voice. So, good on you. I hope to see you in the next video. Toodaloo.